Daniel Cole had grown used to silence. The midnight shift at the crisis hotline was his escape, a place where no one asked about the courtroom, the headlines, or the disgrace that had cost him everything. He sat alone under the harsh flicker of fluorescent light, staring at his coffee gone cold. Each night was the same, long hours of waiting, voices on the other end of the line carrying their burdens into his ear, while he quietly tried to drown out his own. At 1:12 a.m., the silence broke. The phone rang, sharp and urgent. Daniel straightened, forcing his voice into calm professionalism as he answered. On the other end came only shallow breathing, uneven and panicked. For a moment, he thought it was another prank call, but then a woman whispered, her voice raw with fear. "He's going to kill me." The words jolted Daniel upright. "You're safe while you're on this line. I need you to stay calm. Tell me where you are." His tone was steady, but his pulse was racing. She explained in broken whispers that she was trapped in the back of a van, tied at the wrists, moving fast along some unknown road. Every sound, the hum of tires, the rattle of tools, was a clue she begged him to follow. Daniel grabbed his pen, scribbling furiously. White van. Gasoline smell. Tools shifting. A male driver. He pressed her for details, encouraging her to focus on anything she could hear outside. Between shallow breaths, she described faint highway noises, a distant horn, and the driver's gravelly cough. Piece by piece, the picture sharpened into something chillingly familiar. As she hesitated, Daniel urged her to describe him. Big build, scar on his jaw, voice like gravel when he speaks. Daniel froze, his pen slipping from his fingers. He knew that man. Years ago, he had stood beside him in court, fighting to prove his innocence. Years ago, he had won, freeing him into the world. And now that same man was out there, driving into the night with a woman's life in his hands. The name came back to him like a curse, Victor Hale. A career criminal, arrested for kidnapping once before, but Daniel had torn the state's case apart. Evidence mishandled, witnesses discredited, reasonable doubt built brick by brick until the jury had no choice but to let him walk. Daniel had known the truth deep down, had seen it in Hale's cold eyes, but he had cared only for winning. That victory had propelled him up the ranks. Now it weighed on him like chains. The woman's whispers dragged him back to the present. She was pleading with him not to hang up, her voice breaking with panic. Daniel steadied himself and promised he wouldn't. But inside, his guilt roared louder than her fear. He had unleashed Hale once before. Could he undo that mistake tonight? As he listened to her breaths and the shifting sounds of the van, his mind replayed the trial. Hale sitting there in his suit, calm, confident, smirking whenever the jury looked away. Daniel had been praised for his brilliance, for dismantling the prosecution piece by piece. But he remembered the way Hale had thanked him afterward, a handshake too long, eyes too sharp. Even then, Daniel had felt he had done something unforgivable. Now, fate had dragged him back to the man he should have stopped. If he failed tonight, another life would be lost, and the blood would be on his hands again. Daniel clenched the phone tighter, his voice low and determined as he asked the woman her name. "Lena," she whispered. He repeated it softly, as if anchoring her to the world. "I'll find you, Lena. I swear I will." In that moment, Daniel made a silent vow. This wasn't just about saving a stranger. This was about redemption. If he let Hale destroy another life, there would be no forgiveness. Not from Lena, not from the world, and not from himself. Daniel switched lines, dialing the police with his free hand while keeping Lena calm on the other. He relayed the details, pressing urgency into every word. But the officer on the other end only sighed. "We can't dispatch a unit on scraps, sir. No plates, no confirmed location, too vague." The dismissal burned. He had heard that tone before, years ago, when prosecutors warned him Hale was dangerous. He had ignored them then. He couldn't now. Back on the line with Lena, he tried a different tactic. He asked her to focus on vibrations under the van, to listen for turns, bumps, or changes in speed. She described a sharp swerve, then the echo of metal rattling against concrete. Daniel's mind raced. An underpass? A bridge? He traced the city map in his head, narrowing the possibilities. He couldn't do it alone. He reached out to an old contact, a detective who still tolerated him despite everything. Reluctantly, the detective agreed to listen. Daniel fed him every clue Lena whispered, piecing together a rough trail. "Keep her talking," the detective said. "We'll try to match the sounds." It wasn't much, but it was hope. Lena's breathing grew ragged. She begged him not to let the line drop. Daniel's throat tightened, but he pushed his guilt aside and spoke with steady conviction. "You're stronger than him, Lena. Focus on me. Every sound matters." His voice became her lifeline, and her voice became his compass. The clock ticked forward, every second heavier than the last. With each clue, Daniel felt the walls closing in, not just on Lena, but on himself. This was his second chance. If he failed now, it would be his final judgment. Victor must have sensed something was wrong. Lena's whispers became rushed, frantic. She said the van was slowing, pulling off the highway. Daniel's stomach turned cold. Hale had realized she wasn't silent anymore. "He knows," she whispered. "He knows I've been talking." The line filled with muffled curses in that gravelly voice Daniel remembered all too well. Daniel urged her to stay quiet, to play along, but it was too late. Hale had stopped the van. Daniel could hear the creak of the door opening, Lena's strangled sobs, and then silence. For a moment, Daniel thought the line had gone dead. He shouted her name, desperation cracking his voice. Then he heard a scuffle, a grunt, and the sound of the phone scraping against metal. "Daniel Cole," a voice rasped suddenly. Not Lena's. Hale's. Cold recognition ran through Daniel's veins like ice. Hale remembered him. "You set me free once. Funny to see you crawling on the other end now." His mocking laugh cut deep. Daniel's chest tightened. Hale was taunting him, savoring the connection. But Daniel refused to break. He met Hale's venom with steel. "You won't win this time, Victor. I'll make sure of it." The line went dead, leaving only the dial tone echoing in Daniel's ear. For a moment he sat frozen, staring into the empty dark of the call room. Then something inside him snapped into resolve. This was no longer just about redemption. Hale had made it personal. If Daniel wanted to save Lena, he had to step out of the shadows, confront his past head-on, and stop the man he had once defended at any cost.